Hey, we're back. My name is Philip.
And I'm Arthur.
You are watching and listening to
Outside the Church Walls.
Yes, we always love to say the name weird. Some people are like, why do you do that? Because we're awesome.
And we're weird.
And that's what we like to do. Today we are talking about emotions, but specifically a type of emotion. And speaking of emotions, obviously the summer movie is Inside Out 2, which I have not seen. Hopefully I will see it soon.
I'm going to see it next week with my mental health group. Shout out to my mental health group. Thank you for supporting the podcast. But yes, I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it. Inside Out 1 was so good. Mm-hmm. Bing Bong, man, like broke my heart. And so like when Bing Bong, he's like, take her to the moon, Riley. And it's like, ugh. And so, but there's so many emotions that kind of like we either can handle, we can let loose. Like if you were to think about an emotion right now, anger, sadness, grief, like all that, what do you think that you feel like your emotion you have a good grasp on?
It probably has to be pride. I think pride now for me has gotten better over the years. And not to say that I'm awesome at that, but it's just gotten better over the years.
Yeah.
And I think what helped was me being immersed into community. Because when I got immersed into community, I was able to get the focus off of myself.
Yeah.
And direct that focus towards others. And
That's great.
So I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
That's great.
What about you?
If I had to be honest, I think the truth is I've mastered none of them.
Wow. I mean, I'm
kind of like Will Ferrell. Wow, you're not surprised. Ouch. I mean, I just feel like Will Ferrell, where you know when he's like, I'm in a glass case of emotion. Like, it's so real that I don't know right now. It's just those highs and lows.
What's your favorite Will Ferrell movie, by the way? Quick tangent.
Favorite Phil Will movie would probably be The Other Guys.
Great movie.
Great movie. I love that movie.
I love it
Mark
a lot.
Wahlberg, so good. You got a little, The Rock in there, Samuel L. Jackson.
Good
Don't
movie.
Go Chasing Waterfalls. What would you say?
For me, it'd have to be Night at the Roxbury. Dun 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 dun. What is love? Love.
You,
baby,
me,
don't
you,
hurt me. Don't hurt me.
No one wants
No
to see
more.
me dancing. No one wants to see that.
Except me.
Oh, all right. And maybe a few of you, you know.
By the way, if you have been listening to us sing over the last few weeks on all these episodes, you're probably tired of listening to us sing. But
Yeah.
guess what? We're putting together a playlist of all the original songs.
Yes.
So now you don't have to listen to us. You can listen to the originals. So Night at the Roxbury, What is Love will be on there.
We quoted some Phil Collins before. We've done
Lion
some Michael
King,
Jackson,
like
Lion King,
Elton John.
Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith.
Michael Jackson. Did we say Michael Jackson?
We did say Michael Jackson. We said Janet Jackson one time. You know, we did Justin Timberlake. I mean, it's going to be a great playlist.
Yeah. Amazing. Just like us. Or at
That's
least we
good.
try to be.
Anyways, back to emotions.
Back to emotions. Phil.
So, I think there are so many, though. Like, again, like we look at this world, everyone wants to, right now, anxiety, emotional, sadness, all that. But there's one that easily gets overlooked.
What's that?
And that's anger.
Oh.
No one wants to talk about it.
Did it just get quiet in here?
It kind of did. Anger is the raw, real emotion that many of us struggle with. If you were honest, where are you most tempted to get angry?
Ooh, okay, for me, lots of areas. But when I'm in the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, and they messed up my order.
Chick-fil-A messes your order up?
If I ordered large fries, sometimes they've given me the medium level of fries.
No.
Sometimes I asked for more pickles. I got 2. Yeah, and so that gets me angry real quick. Or should I say, hangry.
Hangry, that's right.
But a lot of times, okay, on a serious note, when I do get angry is when I see that people try to lie to me and people try to take advantage of me and or things like that will really push my buttons really fast. I don't know why, but especially I think when it's loved ones, it's hard to let that anger go.
Yeah.
What about you, Phil?
Yeah, I think for me, it's driving. All those terrible drivers on the road. I'm clearly the better driver.
Clearly.
I know where I want to go. And here's just a pro tip. Okay, look, if you're driving on the highway, you're in Texas. Okay, the far right lane is the super slow. You're going the speed limit, maybe even like 5 under. The middle lane is like 5 to 10 over the speed limit. So if speed limit's 60, you're going 65, maybe even 70. And that far left lane, you better be moving, baby.
That's right.
We're going to work. We're trying to get there on time. We're going to make our coffee early, so you better move out the way. And when you get one of those far right lane people in the far left lane, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Or like people trying to do they're like trying to do makeup or they're trying to do something in the car and you're like, just go. Or at a stoplight. Usually it's a lot of car stuff.
Yeah.
I'm guilty because my daughter one time I was at a light and I was like, go. And then I hear my youngest daughter be like, go. And I was like, oh gosh. I was like, whoops, they're starting to quote me. And so, yeah, my anger there, that's my, where I see it the most.
Really?
But I also see it if I don't have control over things. Like, so the truth is, like, I feel at times I can be controlling and I want to be control. I want to be able to know what's going on. And when I feel like I'm losing control of something, I can see my anger rise up. And that's something daily I'm trying to like go, okay, Lord, like, it's not my will, it's your will be done. And so I'm trying to like release that.
Right.
And start each day not firmly grasped, but like let loose and be like, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like the moment I say that, God's like, oh, you really believe that? I'm going to put some drivers in your way. And I'm like, oh, dang it. And so like, I have to like trust as tests.
Yeah, that's so true. And you know what? I think when it comes to anger, God says a lot about our anger.
He does.
And there's a call to control our anger because it can easily spill into our friendships and cause hurt and cause division. And God's word, what does it say in James chapter 1, verses 19 through 20? It says, dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So when we look at that verse, we think, wait a minute, there is something that God desires for us, and it's not found with human anger.
Yeah.
Right? How interesting is that verse?
Yeah, so good. I mean, I think, we are so quick to want to speak, quick to produce anger, and we want to be slow to listen. Yeah. Right? Like the old phrase of like, hey, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, not one mouth, not 1 mouth and 2. Wait, no, that's the wrong. You know what I mean there? Let's just leave it because it's like he gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth, not 2 mouths and 1 ear.
Yeah.
He wants us to be quick to listen. But what did that last part of that verse say, Arthur?
Because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires.
Yeah, like it doesn't produce it. And hopefully in this podcast, we keep talking about we want to produce the righteousness. We want to own our faith Monday through Saturday. It's not just a one-time, one service, one event thing. Our Christianity, our walk with Jesus cannot just be Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. and then we go back to life. And so if our anger is controlling us, then it's not producing what God desires.
Right. You're right. And honestly, whenever I get angry, I block everything out. Like, it's hard for me to love whenever I'm angry. And so one of the verses that comes to mind for me is Romans chapter 12, verse 10. Be devoted to one another in love and honor one another above yourselves.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at that verse, immediately loving one another jumps out to me. Honoring one another jumps out to me. So how can we honor and love one another if we're in anger? Honestly, if I'm being serious, like it's going to be pretty hard to love and honor someone if we're angry.
Yeah.
So
I agree. So we have to control the anger and like maybe we can all sit here and we can probably walk through a scale or a list of people that we just know that we're like, whoa, they are a loose cannon. Like, do you kind of tiptoe around them? You're a little nervous to speak to them, or like you're nervous to go into their office, or if like something goes wrong.
Right.
And so, and sadly, the truth is at times we are that way as well. And there are people who are afraid to walk up to us or say whatever. And so what can we do to fix this anger? Like, what can we do? I mean, is it just that we, simply are like, just let it run loose? No, because that scripture talked about, hey, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, Arthur, what do we do now? We've acknowledged there's this anger problem. Help me. What do I do?
Philip, great question. Picture a field. There's all types of things growing in the field. There's grass, bushes, and trees. In the field of anger, you won't find crops of love. You won't find flower beds of patience. And you won't find care anywhere. What we're not saying is we're not saying that you should numb out your anger because that's not healthy. But what we are saying is maybe, just maybe, there's some room to use anger as fuel for change. Like, I don't like sex trafficking. I don't like oppression. I don't like racism. So I get angry whenever I think of these things that are happening in the world because they are real. Yeah. So maybe there is a place for anger. Don't you think, Phil?
I think there is, but we have to remember that, like, you and I are not the Avengers.
That's true.
Like, I am not Thor and you're not Captain America. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, you may have the body of the Captain America, and I may have the body of Thor when, he's overweight and everything.
No.
In Avengers, whatever that was, Endgame.
Good movie.
But, like, we're not that. But we can do something with our anger, right?
You're right. You're right. And you know what's crazy is I love the way you thought about that, because if we get into this mode that we want to seek justice our way, it'll be exactly that. It'll be our way, and it won't be his way.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do we do? How do we go about his way?
Well, I think we need to find ways on how we can control our anger. Let's start with some practical ways. And we have a few things that we can probably think about.
Yeah.
Number 1, breathe and count to 10.
The best. It worked. I don't think we're gonna breathe like that,
okay.
But I remember that as a kid. My mom would be like, "Philip, just breathe, count to 10." And then it's crazy. I got older, and it still happened. And then went to therapy, and they're like, "Hey, breathe, count to 10." It's still the same thing. Like we know, like breathing, counting to 10, taking a moment, pausing. I think it's so funny that I'm just like, as we get older, it's still with us.
Yeah.
And so breathe, take a moment. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, that works. Number 2, get your pencils out for this one. If someone makes you angry, guess what? Let the fool be a fool. Scripture has a great verse, and it's in Proverbs 29:11. It says, "A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back."
I love that one.
And you know what? If that's hard for you to remember, I thought of a cool song that you can probably think of whenever this does happen. Let the fool be a fool. I'm going to love myself today. I'm going to keep my peace today. Let the fool be a fool. Available on iTunes soon. Wait, does iTunes exist?
Oh, it works. It works. It exists. Because you have Apple Music, but you have iTunes on your computer.
There you go.
But man, let the fool be a fool. Why? Because the fool gives full vent to his spirit. When a fool, you look at someone who just loses control. Again, I think of Inside Out. Look at that little, like it's like the little red guy. He's like, and he's like just losing it.
Yeah.
It's because a fool does that.
Right.
But what does it say, Arthur? A wise man what?
Quietly holds it back.
Holds it back. And we're not saying that you always just, if something goes wrong that is unjustly done, that you just go, I'm just going to hold back my anger.
Right.
No, God's going to get his.
Right.
And that's exciting. And that's one of the points here that we talk about too. So not only do we say we need to count to 10, and not only do we need to let the fool be a fool, but what else, Arthur?
Well, I would say also that number 3, you want to make sure that you can be righteously angry. But be angry and do not sin. In Ephesians 4:26, it says exactly that. Be angry and do not sin. And so that's awesome. But also what Phil was just saying, what I really loved is the Lord will fight your battles.
Yeah.
Not every battle that comes across our way is meant for us to fight. There's a great verse that speaks about this. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And that's amazing because our peace is worth much more. And you know what? I'll give that battle to God any day because I know he's going to fight it the best way.
Yeah.
And I'm better than I could do it any day. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think one thing I want to encourage everyone who's listening here too is like we stand on this point of like be righteously angry, but it says but be angry and do not sin. That verse in Ephesians, it talks about be angry and do not sin, and the next part says do not give a foothold to the devil or give no opportunity to the devil. And that's where I think our anger can go wrong. I know where my anger has gone wrong is at times when I am angry about something and then I let that little voice speak into my heart or into my mind and I just let it go. And we can know there's a point where we've crossed the line with our words. We've crossed the line with our tone and everything else.
Yeah.
And so be righteously angry about things that God is angry about.
Yeah.
That he cares about justice. He cares about people. He cares about loving people. He gets angry when things fall short of his glory. We know this.
Yeah.
And so be angry about that as well, and be angry that, man, I have this sin and I've got to fight against it, but don't give into sin. Don't give into the opportunity for the devil to have a foothold, because then we're just, again, defeating the process. So I think it sounds like we can begin to release our anger, but the truth is, Arthur,
what's up?
we release our anger and it's just gone forever. Isn't that right?
If only that were that
Gosh,
easy.
would it not be so easy if we could just be like, Lord, it's yours. I give it to you, and then
Like
we're
just
done.
push a button, delete, and just.
Oh, I'd so do it.
I wish, if only, but we're not. It's a process, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a process, and in my journey, I'm starting to learn that when you give that grace to someone else, is because you're allowing them to process that pain or that anger or that bitterness. Even because I've walked those same roads as well. Like, you have to give people that time in order to process, in order to release that anger. And I think a lot of people probably do a good job of releasing their anger and not sinning. But that wasn't always the case for me, I'll be honest. Is like, I want to get even. I want to get mine. But for everyone listening, just know that one day God will wipe every tear. One day God's going to bring judgment. God will get his. And so whether it's not on this side of eternity or whether it's on the other side of eternity, just give that to God and you will keep your peace.
Yeah, and I would say this just as you said that, it just popped in my head here just now, is like, maybe someone's listening and I've been guilty of this, and so I just want to, if they feel led to, use my own advice. If you've lost your cool on someone, or you've done something where just your anger let loose.
Yeah.
One of the first steps you need to do is you need to go ask for forgiveness from that person.
So
like
good.
Go up to that person. And it doesn't matter if that was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago,
So good.
2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, or the night before. Like, be willing to walk up to that person and be like, hey, I just need you to know I'm so sorry. And when they're like, when they do this, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Like, no, don't let them be like, they just, then you're like, oh, cool. All right, I can move on. Like, no, like say the thing. Hey, I spoke to you in a wrong way.
Yeah.
And acknowledge what that, like, either anger or that sin or whatever that was, and say it. Hey, I said this, this, and this, and I am so sorry that I said that to you. I do not think this is true. Because when we just say I'm sorry, sometimes it's like, okay, cool. But really, our own soul needs to hear, what are you sorry for?
Yeah.
You're sorry that you lost your cool. It's like, when I get mad or I've gotten frustrated, I've gone to my daughter and I've got on my level, on her level, and I've gone like, hey, like, Daddy loves you. I'm so sorry. I do not need to speak to you that way. I got mad about this.
Yeah.
And it's just so good for that relationship. It allows for reconciliation. And so we do that to one another because we know that when we admit it to God, God is like freely open arms grace. Like his arms are wide open, like to welcome us back.
No, it's so good. And I think if you struggle with that, because I've struggled with that, I think what could help is looking inward and telling yourself, is there a pride component? Is there an ego component that's holding me back from reaching out to someone I loved?
Yeah.
And just telling them, you were right and I was wrong in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you do struggle with that, just know that God can take it away from you. And I think there's nothing that you can hold on to that God can't change. So that's too real and that's too good. And so that's the challenge for you today. Well, today we learned that we can control our anger. We gave you some practical steps that we can do. And I challenge you to try those at home. And we also learned that Scripture teaches us that we have to hold back our anger, because it's not going to produce the righteousness that God desires. If anything, it's going to fuel our egos, fuel our pride, but then consequently lead into more hurt and consequently maybe lead to isolation. If there's anyone that you've wrongly hurt this week or in the past, I challenge you to reach out to them. I challenge you to do it today. It's never too late. This was Outside the Church Walls.